Hey resellers, thanks so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Rachel. I buy items, largely vintage and designer, and I buy low and sell high. I resell online, several online marketplaces, as well as sometimes in person. So if you're interested in videos like that, if you like this video, be sure to like this video, but please consider sticking around and subscribing. I am just loving and enjoying the community that we are forming here at the channel. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload new videos. So today's video is a little bit of a story time, and it's really a cool story. Before I was ever a reseller, I would draw a lot of inspiration from a pretty popular TV show. Hope there's no copyright issue with me telling you this. I just think that they are so inspiring, American Pickers. And I remember watching American Pickers once specifically with my husband, and I said, I wish I could do that. I wish I could go find these treasures and get them into the homes that they belong in. Because one of the things that they talk about a lot on the show is that it's not always about turning a profit. Sometimes it's about getting the item into the hands of whoever it belongs to, or whoever you think would really absolutely enjoy that item. Especially collectible items. I had someone reach out to me once and about some dolls that they were going to throw away, these beautiful dolls from the 50s. They didn't have huge resale value, so I wasn't able to really offer them much for them, but I said, please just don't throw them away. I would list them for you just to keep them out of the trash and get them into the hands of a collector. My favorite thing to source, to buy, to resell is vintage items. 100%. If I am a sucker for vintage wool, women's clothing, I love things that are made out of wood, out of metal, glass, things that they're not using anymore. Imported plastic just doesn't really thrill me. So I love mid-century items. These are the things that I'm usually looking for. And more than anything, I want to get them into the hands of someone that is truly going to appreciate them. Had someone ask me once if I would accept an offer on a shirt, and she said, as a warning, I am going to be shredding this t-shirt for a some type of a performance she was doing on a stage. And I thought, oh my gosh, this beautiful vintage shirt. And I had to second guess whether or not to sell it to her. It wasn't that special of a vintage shirt, so I did end up selling it. It was like a vintage Mickey Mouse, but I just want the items that I sell to be loved. And sometimes you don't always get to decide who ends up with the items. But in today's story, I got to decide. I got to find the rightful owner of this item. So, the story started, I went into one of my favorite resale shops, which is actually just a little flea market here in my town, my very small town. And this lady that owns this flea market, she absolutely specializes in vintage. She buys entire homes, entire estates full of things, and often those homes are when someone passes away, when someone goes into a nursing home, so on and so forth. She will go in and buy the entire house of stuff. Now she doesn't sell a lot of clothing, unfortunately, so I'm not able to find those things, but she has my number if she ever does get clothing. But she always has vintage electronics. I can go in there on any given day and buy a VCR, an old TV, Walkman, just all kinds of really cool vintage items. But one of my favorite things to buy in her store, and also a favorite thing to buy in her store for my own home, is vintage artwork. So her store is not very large. I would say maybe like 4 times the size of the room that I'm in right now. And from floor to ceiling, where she doesn't have shelves, she has gallery style pictures. I think I got this one here. Just as an example, this is the type of thing that I would look for. So she would just have these just everywhere, pictures all over the walls. And this is so cool. This checks a lot of vintage boxes off for me because I don't think that this one's wood, but this is handmade, because you don't see a whole lot of handmade stuff. This is it's vintage. This is so cool that someone hand pressed these dogwood flowers and this butterfly in here. So this is typically the kind of thing that you would find in her store. Well, one particular day I was in her store and something caught my eye. I'm going to show it to you and tell me if it would have caught your eye as well. Hanging on the wall was this beautiful girl. Tell me, would that have caught your eye? This is a charcoal drawing, a sketch of a girl, and it is in a wooden frame, so that checks a good box for me. The frame is vintage, I could tell by the nail heads, and it's handmade. So I said, how much do you want for the girl hanging up there? I want to say this was like $3.50. I get it home, and one of the things that I always have to do with an item, and what really got me into reselling, was I would buy items for my own home, and I would just research them to death. I had to know who it was made by, what year it was made, where was the factory. These things that most people don't really care about, I always wanted to know the story. So I start looking at this and I'm like, what is the story behind this girl? This is an original. This is not a print. So is this someone local? And the more I looked at it, I mean, look at her eyes. I thought, I have to know who is this girl? And I thought I might just hang this in my own home, but I still have to know who she is. So I have a friend that knows absolutely everyone in our town. She could probably write a book, a collection about our town or even our county. Her name is Linda. And I sent a picture of this to Linda and I said, can you help me find this girl? And there's a name down here. I'll cover up the last name. And I said, do you know who the artist is? Or maybe that's the girl. She said, I don't know who that is, but let me reach out to a few people. So she puts it on her Facebook. And within hours, I mean that night, she messaged me back and said, we have a winner. I have discovered who your girl is. So let me tell you. This girl's name is Anne. Anne now lives in a nursing home about an hour north of where I live. And Anne has a sister named Geraldine who lives in a nursing home about 30 minutes south of that. So right in between me and Anne. I'm not sure how the two sisters wound up in separate nursing homes. I hate that. I wish that they were together. But Anne's sister Geraldine actually has a similar drawing, a similar painting, I think, hanging up over her bed at her nursing home. So when an administrator at the nursing home saw this Facebook post, they recognized Anne immediately and reached out and said, I know them, I know the family, and I'm sure they would love to have this back. So as it turns out, Anne and Geraldine's father, who is no longer living, commissioned an artist to draw pictures of the girls and to paint pictures of them when they were young. I'm not sure exactly what age she might have been in this photo. Drop below your best guess about maybe she was a teenager, you think? But this drawing is going home to Anne and Geraldine, and I could not tell you, as not only just as a reseller, as I don't know, a historian of sorts, as a mid-century lover, as a lover of all things vintage, how much that thrills me to have actually tracked down, Nancy Drew style, the subject in this picture and to get it back to her. You guys, that just makes everything worth it. I only paid $3.50 for it. I would have paid a lot more had I known that I would be able to get this back to the family. So I just think it's incredible. I think it's amazing. I hope Anne's kids love having this picture of her. I hope Anne loves seeing it, because especially during a time right now, during the pandemic, I'm not allowed to drop this off at the nursing home. Well, I could drop it off, but I can't go inside. So I'm not going to be able to see their reaction or to be able to speak to them about it. So I've made arrangements with the administrator to actually meet them somewhere and get this to them, which I am just so thankful for, because we live in such a beautiful little part of the country where people go above and beyond like that. They are so excited to get it to them. And I just think at a time where the family, these ladies are not allowed to see a whole lot of people, I hope that they know that people that outside of this nursing home are considering them, are thinking about them, how loved they are. And I just think, how perfect is God to use probably something like that just to let them know, hey, you are loved. So if you ever see an item and you have an itch to know more about it, scratch that itch, because you never know what a huge difference it could make in someone else's life. I will update on my Instagram after I meet with the administrator and drop off that picture, but let me give you one last look at it, because if you're like me, you're just captivated by this drawing. I think it's so beautiful. I think that she's so beautiful, and I can't believe that this young girl in this picture is now old enough to be in a nursing home and is going to be reunited with this lost photo. I wonder how it wound up in a secondhand shop. But I'm so glad that God chose me to find this thing and to get it back to this family. So I just thought you guys would love that story. Always consider the big picture when you're sourcing and when you're thrifting and when you're reselling, because that was worth more than I could ever have sold that for. God bless you guys, and treat your business like your business.